All right, so this is June the 28th. It is the fourth day of the 7 days campaign from on to Richmond. We've been doing day by day the 7 days battles. So this is June 28th, Sunday, June 28th, and the tide has turned a little bit for the Confederacy. If you can tell from the map here, this was a good turn for the CSA. They've had three lackluster turns. Last turn was it was a rain turn. It was, things went badly for the CSA, and so they needed this, or they were staring, decisive defeat in the face. They couldn't keep taking casualties like they did, banging away at the entrenched forces around Mechanicsville. The biggest question facing Lee was whether to continue this curving, attack on the Union flank. The problem that you're running into is if you keep pressing this, trying to find the flank and rear of the Union Army, is your line is bending. And so you're no longer operating under interior lines. In fact, the Union now is operating under interior lines. They can move much more rapidly, and that kind of counters the advantage that you have over the Union. So I actually flirted with the idea of taking Jackson because he hadn't fully engaged, and marching him around and hitting, trying to find the rear of the Union Army on this flank. Force McClellan to maneuver is basically the name of the game as I see it for the Confederacy. Well, what happened pretty much this turn was Stuart won the initiative. The Confederates won the initiative. They used Stuart to very, very good effect. He had a ton of movement points, which allowed him to eliminate no less than three regiments of cavalry. The 1st New York, 4th Pennsylvania, and the 8th Illinois. All three of those were wiped out in his attack. Stoneman's infantry brigade that was helping to support the cavalry on the far right of the Union line was also hit by D.H. Hill. They were surrounded and cut up. And so casualty-wise, the tide has turned massively. The Union's taken 8 strength points more damage, casualties-wise, than the Confederacy has. So we're talking pretty heavy fighting here on this. This was a bloody Sunday fighting. Morrill's division is now disorganized. He got hit pretty hard by Jackson's forces. Keyes' force is disorganized. That's Peck's division. He's disorganized. It was almost surrounded. The forts around Mechanicsville have been abandoned and fallen back to this location here. Force 4 has a fort and horse artillery. One of the artillery reserves from the Army of the Potomac was hit pretty hard and damaged. Porter, McCall's division, got hit really bad and is also chewed up. So there's several demoralized units that the Union's going to need to get recovered. Now, one of the things that helped turn the situation around, Sedgwick's division here under Sumner's corps launched a late counterattack late in the day and was able to hit, I think that was it Ewell? Yeah, hit Ewell's division hard and inflicted casualties on him, routed them, demoralized them, and restored a very dangerous and crumbling situation here. Bottom line, no Confederates have entered New Kent County. They've reached the county line pretty much with Stuart, but they haven't crossed over, so it's not mandatory for McClellan to change his base, but I think at this point he'd be foolish not to. So before we move into the next turn, we'll declare a changing of the base, which will necessitate the placing of a marker down on the James. That'll free up the wagon trains to kind of move around, and forces will need to shift somewhat to respond to this new situation. The worst case scenario is that the Confederacy wins early initiatives, and if they can get to these bridges, the Union Army could be destroyed. So it's a very dangerous situation facing McClellan's army. His situation has greatly deteriorated in one day. This is not a lost battle, but the situation is very, very dangerous right now for McClellan. As far as Lee goes, he's not out of the woods yet. He's taken a lot of casualties, and a lot of his guys are going to be on their fatigued side. Longstreet remained inactive here. He's pretty much all stacked up there in Force 1. They didn't do much on this turn. I intentionally left them to recover. And so they're the only ones that are going to be really fresh going into this next turn. Stewart's going to be fresh. And I think one of his cavalry regiments is going to be fresh. But pretty much all of D.H. Hill, A.P. Hill, and Stonewall Jackson's corps are going to be looking at being